Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we are going to talk about curing of a concrete or mortar. Number one, what's curing of a concrete? Curing is providing adequate moisture, temperature, and time to allow it achieve the desired property for its intended purpose. That's what we mean by curing of a concrete. For how long should a concrete be cured? A concrete should be cured for not less than 7 days. By the end of 7 days, the concrete shall have gathered or garnered a more than 70% designed strength. That is in terms of comprehensive or flexible strength. If you are using additives, you can also do curing up to 3 days. That is under above temperature of 10% degrees Celsius. That is allowed. But in normal cases, concrete should be cured for not less than 7 days and not exceeding 28 days. What are the importance of curing? The importance of curing is to attain moisture so that the concrete continues to gain the design strength. Number two, it helps delay shrinkage till the concrete is strong enough to resist shrinkage and cracks. Number three is to improve the strength, durability, water tightness, and wearing resistance of concrete. What are types of curing? We have got ponding. Ponding is whereby you ensure that water is stagnant on your concrete. If it is slab, you have to ensure that water stagnates on that slab for not less than 7 days and not exceeding 28 days. Number two, another type of curing is spraying or sprinkling. In that scenario is whereby you spray water or sprinkle water on a concrete. Number three is damp sand. In such scenario, you spray sand on your concrete. If it is slab, you just spread sand on that slab. Then you wet that sand. The sand should remain wet or damp for not less than 7 days and not exceeding 28 days. Number three, as another type of curing, is using of Asian clothes or Asian clothing. It is very commonly used. So that cloth should be used to cover the surface of the concrete you are trying to cure, after which you ensure that that cloth remain wet for not less than 7 days and not exceeding 28 days. Number five is covering the surface of concrete by use of polythene clothing. That would help prevent the water content in concrete from escaping. Remember, the purpose of curing is to ensure that concrete retain the water moisture or water content in it to avoid shrinkage and to also enhance the gain of the desired strength. How to speed up concrete drying time? How do we speed up concrete drying time? You can do the following to speed up the drying time for your concrete. 1. Use correct amount of water during mixing. When you are mixing concrete, remember concrete consists of sand, cement, ballast, and water. So when you use the right proportion or quantity of water, that helps speed up the drying time of concrete. Secondly, do not over towel or seal off the surface of the concrete. Once you've poured the concrete, the troweling should be moderate, not overdone. That also helps speed up the curing time of a concrete. Keeping doors and windows closed. That is applicable in a scenario whereby you are doing screeding, plasterwork, and in a room where you're working, all the doors and windows are already fitted. So ensure that all of them are closed to prevent loss of moisture from concrete. People do usually ask that, is it okay if it rains immediately you've just poured concrete? We cannot prevent rain, and therefore should it rain immediately after the concrete is poured, ensure that you cover the concrete surface. You can use a polythene sheet to cover so that the water does not interfere or saturate the water content that are already been used in the mixing of the concrete. So that should take place between 2 to 4 hours. Within 2 to 4 hours, you should cover the surface of concrete if it rains. Another thing is that should it rain after 8 hours, then that is just okay, because by that time the concrete should have gained some little strength that could not allow additional water on it to affect it negatively. People also ask that, is it okay to drive on a concrete after 3 days after being poured? Sorry. It is wrong, because after 3 days, if the additive is not added on that concrete, then the concrete shall have not gained the desired strength to overstand any loading. This can only be done after 7 days, because at the end of the 7 days, the concrete shall have gained not less than 90% of the desired strength or the desired strength. So by that, you can risk to drive on it, and it shall not really affect it. Then another question people usually ask: what happens if curing is not done? If curing is not done to a concrete, 1, there will be water deficiency, which causes insufficient hydration to a concrete. Once this happens, the result is we shall end up with poor strength of concrete. we shall end up with poor strength of concrete, low durability of concrete, cracks on concrete, and lastly, shrinkage. Remember, it is the shrinkage that results into cracking of a concrete. So those are the consequences if you fail to cure concrete. I repeat, should you fail to cure concrete, one, we shall end up having poor strength of the concrete, shrinkage, which results into cracks on a concrete, and low durability of the concrete. When is it recommended to start curing? Curing is supposed to be started 24 hours, not exceeding, after the concrete is poured. After 24 hours, you are supposed to start doing your curing for concrete. Another thing is that where and when do we use those types of curing that I've just mentioned earlier? In a flat surface, for example, slab or anything flat, we've said that ponding will be appropriate. Use of damp sand would be appropriate. Covering using polythene sheeting will also be appropriate. How about columns? The best way on a column is use of Asian clothing. You just wrap your column by Asian clothing, and you ensure that the clothing remain damp or wet. If you fail to get Asian clothing, you can sprinkle or spray water adequately. That you can do maybe 3 times in a day. You do after every 3 or 4 hours, you do, to ensure that columns remain wet. So that's all about curing. It is very, very important part of construction that sometimes people do ignore. Remember, even if you are doing class 30 or class 25 on concrete and you fail to cure, you shall end up with even below class 15. So you shall have used a lot of resources to do the higher class or strength, but you end up achieving the lower class or strength due to lack of curing. A very simple thing, and if you ignore, then you shall have not achieved your target. So that's all about curing. It's very part that people do ignore because they do not understand the importance of it, but it plays a lot of role. Even, for example, in a case of plaster work, you get somebody plaster today. After 2 days, this person rushes to paint. It's wrong. You are supposed to cure your plaster or the mortar for the time recommended, leave it to set, so that if it means settling or removing air in the plaster, those should be eliminated before you start painting. So that's the end of our discussion today. Till we meet again in another topic. Bye for now.